You've probably never thought that if you want to learn about finances that you should just boot up one of your favorite video games. But that's exactly what I found out. So today I'm going to show you everything that you need to know about personal finances, all by playing Apex Legends. When you first drop into a match in Apex, you quickly realize that one of the easiest ways to get an advantage is to just find some good loot. Because having superior positioning can only get you so far if the dude you're fighting has a gold R301 and a purple shield. So the better the loot you have, the better shot you're going to have in the final circle. However, in Apex, you'll also want to prioritize loot that can give you an advantage, like bats, syringes, and nades, so you can outlast other players as well. Now in your finances, you'll definitely want to prioritize certain things in your budget, like investing, rent, and groceries. Think of it like this: every dollar that you earn is like your loot, and how well you do with your finances depends on how well you manage your income or your loot. And you might be thinking,
well, duh, everyone knows you need a budget.
And that's true, because according to this article on NerdWallet, 74% of Americans actually do have a budget. But here's the problem. Of the Americans that actually do have a budget, 84% of them reported they actually exceed their budgets. That's like planning a diet and then moving next door to a Dunkin' Donuts. But just like in Apex, you only need a budget for so much shotgun ammo. After a stack or two of shotty ammo, it's just taking up valuable space in your inventory, so you'll definitely want to just drop it. The same thing goes for your budget. When I'm working with clients, I can pretty much always find expenses they may need to drop so they have room for more important things. But the main idea here is to spend less than you make, and to do that, you may have to cut some expenses so you can focus your dollars on what really matters, like saving and investing. And if you're wondering how to invest, we're going to talk about that later, but for now, just make sure that you're focusing on sticking to a budget and then putting some back for savings. Now, speaking of investing, you might not think of your team comp in Apex as an investment. That's exactly what it is. Having a diverse team comp will definitely give you an advantage over your competition. Now in Apex, we know there's 5 different classes of legends, and each class has their own pros and cons. So one of the issues that I saw when playing with randos is they don't really care about the team comp. They're just gonna play whoever they want, which definitely made it difficult to rank up. This is like showing up to a potluck dinner and then hoping that everyone brought something different, but instead, everybody brought green beans.
I got beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes.
Now in finances, this would be like putting all your eggs in the same basket. And how I've seen some of my clients do this is by relying too heavily on individual stocks, which in my opinion is completely speculative and will most likely put you at a disadvantage over time compared to a well-diversified portfolio of ETFs. Now, if you aren't sure what an ETF is, it's basically a pool of many securities that are invested in multiple assets rather than just a single asset. So when you purchase an ETF, you basically get instant diversification. So the lesson here is to stay away from trying to get rich quickly and stick to a diversified portfolio. Now that I understood the basics of Apex, the next area where I found I struggled is picking when to actually fight. When I first started playing Apex, I'm dropping hot, and if I saw you, I'm coming after you. But after a bunch of frustration and trying to figure out why I had a bunch of games that were ending super early, I noticed I didn't have to take every single fight. I realized that sometimes I couldn't even afford to fight in the first place because I didn't have enough heals or ammo, or maybe I would have worse positioning than my opponents did. I was way too broke to fight.
This is disgusting.
But I did it anyway. The same thing actually happens in your finances more than you think. At one of my businesses, we actually help people buy homes, and I see a lot of them try to buy houses they really can't afford. A house is a huge commitment because there's a lot of upfront expenses like down payment and closing costs, and then of course you're gonna have a monthly mortgage payment you're gonna have to make. There are definitely advantages to owning a home, but sometimes it's better to not take that fight. Can't afford it. Make sure you can truly afford a home first before you go in guns blazing. Now by this point, I had recruited a couple buddies to download Apex, which definitely makes it a lot more fun. But unfortunately, most of my friends have the gaming skill of a toaster, so they go down all the time. This is when I discovered how OP the respawn beacons truly were, because after I'd collected my loser friends' tags, I could basically get them back in the game like they never got knocked in the first place. Well, there is actually a way to do something similar in your finances, but it's way more useful than respawning in a video game. So let's say that you've been working for a few years and you had been clawing your way to some savings and you finally put together a good chunk of money. But then it was raining one day and you didn't brake in time and you slammed in the back of a brand new Mercedes. This could be game over for your finances if you don't have have a decent insurance policy. Now for me, insurance is one of the greatest inventions in human history. It can prevent you from catastrophic losses and make sure that you don't go broke over silly accidents that can happen to the best of us. The pro tip here is you want to make sure you have enough insurance to cover losses up to whatever your net worth is. And a cheap way to do that is through something called an umbrella policy. Umbrellas are actually OP. They attach to a home or an auto policy, and you can get upwards of $1 million of coverage for only a few $100 a year. So just like in Apex, the respawn beacons can save you from getting destroyed in your next team fight. Proper insurance coverage is like your financial respawn in the real world. But it won't matter how many dead teammates you can bring back if you aren't paying attention to this major piece of the game. And whether you like it or not, the ring is coming for you, and you need to pay attention to make sure you don't get caught fighting in it for too long, or you may need to be the one that's actually getting respawned by your teammates. But there is something way worse in the ring that's coming for your finances. They say there are two things in life that are certain: death, taxes. If taxes played Apex, taxes would win every game by nickel and diming your shield to death. Uncle Sam is coming for you, and you need to be prepared.
I think that all government is a waste of taxpayer money.
And if you're paying attention, the national debt is continuing to climb no matter which goofball we put in the office. So if I were a betting man, I'd bet that our taxes go up between now and whenever you're going to try to retire. Which is why I'm personally a fan of paying Uncle Sam now, so I don't have to even think about him later on when I need that money the most. Now you can do this a couple of different ways. One is through an index universal life policy, which I have about 20% or so of my investment portfolio in. Another is a Roth 401k or IRA. I know that places that I have worked in the past, I could elect to either save my money in a traditional 401k, or I could choose to do a Roth 401k. Roths have you go ahead and they pay taxes on your earnings now, and you can invest what's left over. The other thought here is that hopefully you'll be earning more money later in your career, which would theoretically put you in a higher tax bracket. So by settling your tab now with the tax man, you might be able to actually save yourself some money. Either way, nobody ever talked to me about finances growing up. And now that I'm a little older, I wish that someone had at least gone over the basics when I was younger, because I know I'd be way farther ahead than I am now. But hey, who needs boring finance lessons when you've got Apex Legends? If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out my crash course in business management courtesy of Grand Theft Auto. Spoiler alert, it was more educational than my entire college experience was, and with way fewer textbooks.